I'm Laura Webb, and this is the Greatest Day Interviews.
Great. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks.
So can you give us some of your background as a music supervisor and what that is?
Yeah. So music supervisors, it's all placing all the music and getting all the rights and clearances for, it's not the composed music, it's it's the music, it could be, the breakup songs or the montages. It's all the music that's could be pre-existing, or you could be creating music for a moment, and it's finding all that and getting all the permissions and placing it for film, TV. I mostly do film and TV, but it's also, there's a lot of other mediums such as trailers, video games, ads. I'm sure there's other mediums I can't think of right now, but I primarily do film and TV. So.
What brought you to music supervision?
I didn't know it was a career, to be honest, but I think when I look back, like, all the things that I was drawn to were films that use music really heavily. Like, I think my big influences were Baz Luhrmann and Danny Boyle, personally. And so when I think back, Trainspotting was a big seminal film for me personally. And so I was always drawn to the films that use music really heavily. And then I started digging into the more of, the first job that you think of as a director or an actor when you are just a kid and you don't know and you don't realize. But once you start digging in more and seeing, like, wait, what's this music supervisor thing? I started to realize, like, wait, that's someone's job. But I didn't know until I came out. I know I wanted to do something in film, and I came to Los Angeles for school, and I went to USC, and I did get in the legitimate way. Thank you very much. I had good grades, and I got in with good grades legitimately. My parents knew no one. I knew no one. Just like to preface that. And I went in 3 years, too.
Dang.
Just wanted to preface that. I feel like that has to be said now. And I did not get into film school, but I was a communications major. Because I felt like that was really broad, and that I could still take a lot of film classes, and I did a lot of internships and learned what was out here. And this was such a good place to kind of learn. And that's what I did. And then I started, I worked at a talent agency, and that's where I started as an intern, and then I started at a talent agency because a lot of people were saying that that's a really good, like, master's program, if you will.
Oh.
And so that was brutal, and I knew I did not want to do that. I did not want to be a therapist for actors. But I switched over to a company called The Firm, which also managed musicians. And while I was there, a lot of people kept bringing up, and they kept bringing up, like, oh, you know a lot about music. And, when enough people say to you, like, why don't you do music? And I kept being like, but I want to do film, But I think it sunk in enough. And then I kept being like, well, I know I don't want to do this. So what is my next step, kind of thing? And I saw an opening on the UTA job list, and it didn't have a listing at all. Like, it didn't say who it was for, but it just said a music supervisor. And I was like, okay, cool. So I went on the job interview, and when I sat in the waiting room, it was all the soundtracks that I had bought as a kid. So I fangirled very hardcore, and I probably had the least experience in terms of, like, music experience, but I was obviously a very big fangirl, and I was a very good assistant. So they took a chance on me, and it ended up being Laura Wasserman, who had done all of Baz Luhrmann's films, and Darren Higman, who is now over at Warner Brothers. And so I got to be there. I started as their assistant and then became their coordinator. And Darren left to go be at Warner Brothers. And then Laura I was her coordinator for a while. And then she retired. And I then had to go out on my own. And I've been out on my own ever since.
At what point in the process do you come in?
It depends on where you get hired. Some, like, with, like, Teen Wolf or other series, you're on, hopefully you're on from the beginning. But with that, you're sent the scripts and you're anticipating things ahead of time, so and like with that, with a long-standing series, you have a vibe, and you kind of have worked out the sound of each character. Or sometimes you will sit with your showrunners and be like, okay, this is the direction we're going each season. Like, here's some overriding themes. So that, and like we'll talk about that with some of your showrunners. Like, these are some things that are happening, and you'll just be like, hey, what's happening this season, or that kind of thing. Because we just found out yesterday that Siren is getting a season 3, so that's exciting. So I'll have to touch base. I don't know if they've even started. I'm sure in their head so I have to be like, so that will be an example of being like, what are we gonna, we're still finishing up season 2, so we have to shift over to that. But sometimes you get brought on to clean up messes after, which often does happen.
Do you like that?
In some ways it's okay because it's sort of a short run.
Right.
Well, you're just sort of like, okay, well, this is what, you're like, okay, I'm here. Well, that this is what they want. Like, maybe they've temped in a song. So you're like, okay, this is what you want. You want something to sound like this. Usually it's often that they've put in really expensive music and they can't afford it. Yeah. And so you're going to find stuff. Or sometimes maybe artists, they put in something and it won't clear because the artist has denied it.
Oh.
So that happens too. But often it's that they put in a lot of things they can't afford, and then they're like, can you come in and make it cheaper?
Affordable. Like, can you find me the affordable option?
And it's usually like, can you get it done in a week?
Like, oh.
And then you have to go and get all the not as, glamorous side, all the approvals and getting all the rights for it. So,
and how does that happen?
You go and get the master. You have to get the master, and the publishing rights. And so you need to send all the quote requests out and negotiate the budget, and it's lots of paperwork and grids. And so it's a left brain, right brain job.
When you go into producers, how many choices do you bring?
I mean, it depends. I like to give multiple options for sure. I mean, some people want more. I definitely will give a couple, but then sometimes you'll go several rounds. Sometimes you'll go an insane amount of rounds. It's how many, sometimes they'll just be like, we don't quite have it yet. So you'll just keep going and going and going. But, and then sometimes that's nice with TV that you have to get that out the door, and sometimes film.
Because it's like the 8 days.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
5 days or whatever.
I know. You got to get it out the door, which is sometimes nice about TV. And film can just go on longer sometimes, or not. It just depends on your deadline too.
What do you prefer? Yeah. What genre do you prefer?
I mean, I prefer both. I mean, I like both. It's cool that with film you can actually make some original songs. I mean, in TV you can too. It's just a quicker deadline, honestly. But what I like about film is too, you can have make stuff original for, you can have, I'm trying to think how to word this, but yeah, you can have original songs created, and I like that would never exist.
Right.
I mean, you can do it for TV too, frankly, but it's just that you have more time and more time to give the notes. But we are doing that for this season because we've thought about it in advance for Sacred Lies. But I love that because that wouldn't have existed, and I like that that you're part of creating something that wouldn't have existed before, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. So they make the movie, you see the movie with no music.
Yeah.
You come in.
Yeah.
And then they come in.
Well, yeah, and so and typically so we'll work with editors, and we're kind of like the supervisors typically work with editors before the composers come in, but editors will use temp score. So they'll just find other scores from other places, and they'll temp the movie with temp scores from scores that they like, and then our songs, or sometimes some editors, it just depends on the process. I usually try to get in there early personally,
right.
because I find that you want to get in your music so that there's a thing called temp love, and it exists, and it's a real thing. And then, let's say a Beatles, some really expensive song gets in there. It gets really hard to replace it. And usually it's, because someone goes with things that they know, which are more expensive things, and then it gets really hard because everyone's used to it, and then it gets, so I just am like, no, let me get in there and get you things that you can afford, so I just try to get that as soon as possible. So that's my process, but that's not everybody's, and sometimes you have no control over it because it depends when you get brought in, honestly. But, so my stuff, or my songs will be, or they're not my song, but
no,
yeah, I don't make music, so
right now
yeah,
they're your song.
yeah. Let me preface that I don't make them, but so then we'll put those songs in, and then they'll temp it with temp score, and then you typically, and then a composer will then see all that, and then they'll work, and we'll do a spotting session, and we'll go through it and say, okay, this is sort of like, we'd like a little bit of this, like this score works because of this reason, but you take it and soar and go this way or that, that's sort of the process. But some composers, all filmmakers are different.
Right.
This is just a general guideline, I should say. Some people come in and do it from the beginning. It depends, but that's generally how it's done. Yeah.
Did To All the Boys I Love before.
Yeah, and we're working on the sequel.
Yes,
we're working on the sequel now, and yes, we won. We have our own guild, the Guild of Music Supervisors, and we won, and I co-supervised that with my good friend Lindsay Wolvington, so that was really fun to share that too, like having that with somebody that it's fun to do, having your own business is great and doing this, but we have a really communal environment. Like, it's actually one of the areas of our industry, I feel, that is actually, especially coming from talent agency world, but it's very communal, and we're always really helping each other, and so it was really nice to share that together. And Gloria Allred gave us our award,
awesome.
Which was really cool, and especially a film that really celebrated women and
right.
diversity, and so that was like, I totally cried because I didn't know I would, but then when I went up on stage, I was like,
I would cry
because I looked at her, and it just I had some ideas that we had said that we had wanted to thank people, and it like all went out in my head, so it really does happen. But so anyway,
I love that.
Yeah, but,
do you like to work on comedy or drama?
I mean, I like both. I tend to work on a lot of dark and moody stuff. It just happens.
Are you dark and moody?
I mean, the funny thing is one of my director friends laughs because he's like, you're actually a very happy person, so maybe it's cathartic that's like the dark and moody. I get it out that way. I don't know, but I like all avenues. I don't know. I like a lot of dark and moody music, so maybe it's nice that I can find music for all these projects. But YAs, I like a lot of people for many years always kind of was like, YA, and it was really nice to see that To All the Boys got the credit it deserved, or the genre got the credit it deserved, because I've always really liked working in the genre personally, because I feel the fans are the most musically savvy personally, and they consume the music the best, or I feel they're the most engaged personally, while it might not be the most critically acclaimed. I find it's really rewarding, so I really like it, like, personally. But so it was really nice to see, a lot of people a lot of people responded to All the Boys, which was nice. But I've always really liked working in the YA genre. But
how do you feel when you discover people? You kind of discovered Hosier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't. Well. Yeah. I feel weird saying that, but I did
bring them to America,
or part of the journey. I like saying like you're part of a chapter of their story or something. But yeah, I had met some people in Ireland who are really part of the export, and they bring me to Ireland to go to. They do a music festival every year. And I stay in touch with them. And I was working on a film, and I needed some good singer-songwriters. And so my friend Angela Dorgan, it's a festival called Hardworking Class Heroes, and they she had sent me that music ahead of time, and I was like, oh, this guy's really great. His voice, I love a really emotional voice. And so she had sent it to me ahead of time, and then I saw he was playing the year I was going to Dublin. And so I was like, oh yeah, for sure. Because you get a list of like who's playing. So I went and saw him, and it was just like this small club in Dublin. And so seeing him was so great. And I stayed in touch with him, with his management. And, you know, I kept being like, okay, I have to find the perfect spot. And then it was so great too, because I'd been like, okay, it has to be like a spot worthy of it too. And then it was a great spot in Teen Wolf 2 that was worthy of it. And our fans really felt like that too. So it was really exciting to you know,
right.
a spot worthy of that. And it wasn't Take Me to Church, it was another song too, so you could definitely see that it was from that use that the sales really like took off, and like, you know, Spotify streams, YouTube thing, you know, YouTube views, I guess, views, not, and so it's always fun to like read the comments.
How do you find new music? Do people send you things all
the time?
All
the time. Yeah, everywhere. Yeah, I mean, I try to be a sponge and soak it up from all avenues. You know, I get a lot sent to me, but I also try to keep my finger on the pulse of seeing what else is out there too. You know, I'm lucky that I've gotten a great Rolodex of people, but I do try to see what people are talking about, so that I try to always try to stay ahead of the curve if I can. It's hard. There's so much out there now. There's so much more now.
With social media. Does that help you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's nice to kind of see what people are talking about, you know, like I definitely pay attention if like 3 or more people are like, oh, this, you know, I do like knowing that, you know. I used to go to a lot more concerts and festivals, and I don't do as much just because there's the day job to do, you know. And definitely in my 20s I went to a lot more because I had more energy to do. Yeah, I had more energy, you know. But so now it's nice to just see what they're doing, and then I can just observe from social media. So thanks for that they want to post it, and then I'll just read what they've done.
Do you like finding bands, or does it matter like in other states or in other locations?
Yeah.
Is that important to you?
Yeah. I mean,
just keep it inclusive.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I'm very like, my Teen Wolf producers used to always tease me that I'm like very much an Anglophile, and like I really love like Scandinavian bands, and they're like, why do you hate America? I'm like, I don't hate America, but anyway, I don't hate America because I live here, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I always I grew up in Europe actually, right. So I feel like
that's where you went to high school.
Yeah, I went to high school in Germany, and we and my family lived over there for many years. So I don't know, maybe that was what I feel like they're so cool. I don't know, you know, maybe I'm a little biased, but yeah, I don't know. There's a cool sound that definitely comes from there, but obviously the U.S. has some really cool bands too. But yeah, I try to see, you know, Australia has like, there was one season of Teen Wolf in particular, I kept using all these Australian bands, like something was in the water that year that, you know, there's great stuff all over, and it doesn't, honestly, I have a listening queue, and it's really democratic, where for me, whenever I'm like driving around or just getting ready or wherever, for me, a good song is a good song. It doesn't matter where it comes from. I don't care who pitches it. If it's a good song, it's a good song. And I'll put it in my playlist for like what I'm needing. You know, obviously it has to approve and come at a good price, because I have a budget to adhere to, and I don't have unlimited. My budgets are usually never like, you know, crazy budgets or anything. But if it's a good song, like, I like it. So that usually works for me. So yeah, and I tend to like bands that aren't oversaturated too. Like, I like to discover, I like breaking new bands. Like, that's fun for me, and I think that's great I think that's a really rewarding and fun part of the job, to expose viewers to new bands.
There's bands I've never heard
yeah,
of.
It's fun.
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think that's fun.
That?
I think that's the fun part.
That someone sent you a whole album.
Yes.
And how many songs is too many songs? Is there such a thing?
No, it's okay. No, it's okay, because I just go through it all. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, you shouldn't send me like 100 songs, no.
Right.
That would be...
Is title important? When you send a song, is it like, oh, I like that title, I'm going to listen to that song, or is that not a thing?
No, I mean, I guess there's some that make me, if it made me laugh. Like, there's a band called Republican Hair that makes me laugh. Like, it made me laugh, yeah. But I mean, no, it doesn't.
That's how I feel about the Rugburns.
Yeah, I know. Like, it just, I mean, but that doesn't mean, yeah, I guess I'd be like, that's kind of funny, you know? Or, like, there's one called, like, Let's Eat Grandma. So I went and I was like, that made, you know, because you're looking at so many things and I'm just staring at, like, an iTunes screen. So you're like, oh, ha, you know. But, I guess, well, it depends because what you're looking for what project, too. So for, like, Siren, if you're like, but, I mean, we don't always just use things if there is something about, like, underwater or something. But I might be like, oh, you know, or if it's, like, with Sacred Lies, there's, like, there's, like, a Brothers Grimm dark, moody fairy tale thing. So, I mean, maybe if there was, you know, something like a dark reference in the title, maybe, but not really, because really it's more, I mean, I'm really just listening to what the song is, so it's, you know, I'm just listening if it works, so, you know, because it might not even be in the title, to be honest, so, you know, so.
Do you save songs for other projects?
Yeah, for me, I'm just listening all the time, and I make my own playlists, and I keep those going, and those are always where I'll go to first. I have people pitching all the time that want to send, like, hey, what are you working on? Let me send you things. But I'll always go to what, for me, my first go-to is my filter. But then if I'm stuck on something, or if, like, you get someone's like, we need Moroccan music from the 1960s. It's not something that I'll have, like, at the ready. So I'll send out, like, to people, hey, do you have something from there? You know? Like, that would be something that I might not have, like, that I know of right away. But, I mean, or I might be like, oh, wait, I got an email about that last week. Because, you know, you might.
Because everything's random.
Yeah. Or I might be like, I remember hearing that. That was actually a really cool band. I remember hearing that. Because sometimes your brain works like that.
It does.
Yeah. And you're like, yeah, that was cool. Because I am constantly always trying to listen.
How do you know when you pick the right song?
I mean, I don't know. You know, I mean, I usually will have ones that I like and that I send over, but sometimes I won't necessarily say. I'll just kind of, like, you know, and then when they're like, yeah, we picked that one too, and I'll be like, you know. And there's just some spots that you're like, this has to be this song. I don't care. I want this one. You know, but I mean, really, you're there to help them tell their story, and that's what our job is. It's not what our taste is, you know.
Right.
Because I need to make my own stuff if I want my story, and maybe, you know, someday maybe that will happen. I don't know, you know. But so that's always, it's not about. That's what I tell musicians and things. I'm like, it's not up to us. Like, we don't, you know. It's they have the final say. If you do want to get in this job, that is the advice I would say, that you should play well with others, that maybe people don't realize, you know, because I think some people think it's just being a DJ, and it's really not. Yeah, because you should be really good at paperwork and grids, and it's a lot of political, like, being politically savvy, because, yeah, there's a lot of people with opinions, and you just need to maybe try to, like, take a step back a lot and be like, okay, that's what you want. Yes, what I would tell my younger self is, it's okay, that self-care is really important. And that it's okay to stay in some nights, that FOMO is okay, or FOMO is, it's all right. You won't miss out on everything. It's all right. Yeah. And sleep is a good thing sometimes. That's what I would tell myself.